Okay, we're going to go on to number 4 here. Number 4, I'm only doing it because it has x to the 4th, so it's one more power, meaning it's going to have one more root. So we're going to have 4 roots in this one. And the way I would do this, actually, I'm going to explain how I would do it, and then I'm actually not going to do it that way. What I would do is I would see this is a difference of squares, and I would factor it into x squared plus 4 and x squared minus 4, and then factor x squared minus 4 to x plus 2 and x minus 2, and then get my roots straight from there, and then solve the other one. But for the sake of those who that made no sense to, I'm going to go ahead and do it the way I've been doing the other ones. So all I have to do is get out my calculator, type in x raised to the 4th minus 16 and y1, and then hit 0 and y2, and I find these two roots, negative 2 and 2. So my first root, negative 2, I'm just going to say x equals negative 2. And my second one, x equals positive 2. Wow, very pretty handwriting. So then I'm going to go ahead and divide by both of these. And the reason I wanted to do this one, because as a 4th power, I wanted to show you division when you have 2 or more roots. So I'm going to go ahead and do synthetic again. And again, you can do long if you so wish. You would just make this x plus 2 and this one x minus 2, because you want the factors, not the roots. And I'm going to put in my coefficients for my synthetic division. I have 1x to the 4th, 0x cubed, oh so good, 0x squared, 0x, negative 16. First I drop down this, yep, that's an arrow. First I drop down this 1, pretty arrow. Then I take this, multiply by that. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Take negative 2, add it to 0, I get negative 2. And again, so we're just following this pattern. Multiply, add to the next number. Multiply negative 2 times negative 2, that's this negative 2 times this negative 2 is 4. Add it, I get 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Add it, I get negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. And finally, we're not adding to a 0. Negative 16 is 16. Gives us 0, though. So we get that 0 that we wanted. And we have 1, negative 2, 4, and negative 8. Now I'm just going to, instead of writing out my new equation and then doing it, I'm just going to go ahead and use these numbers and do my synthetic division with the other one. So I'm dividing the answer by the other root, or if you're doing long division, by the other factor. I drop this down, I get a 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Negative 8 and 8 is 0. So again, I get that 0 remainder that I want. So I started off as x to the 4th, and I divided one time, so this would be x cubed, because you always go down one. But then I divided again, so this is going to be x squared. So I'm going to have x squared plus 0x plus 4. Now I'm going to take this, and you can do quadratic formula with it. If you want, you just use b as 0, a is 1. So a is 1, b is 0, c is 4. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to solve it by setting it equal to 0. So x squared plus 4 is 0. And I can do this because it doesn't have a b. I subtract 4. It's a beautiful x squared. Okay, that's so bad, I better redo it. X squared equals negative 4. I square root both sides, and I get x equals plus or minus, the square root of 4 is 2, so the square root of negative 4 is 2i, because the square root of a negative is I, square root of negative 1 is I. Now, I put this plus or minus because anytime you're solving a quadratic, you take the square root, you have to do that. It comes from the quadratic formula, which comes from completing the square, but don't worry about that for right now. Just remember you have to do that plus or minus whenever you do the square root. All right, that's number 4.